Well, welcome back to Eyewitness News here on the KSCW. Our legal counsel, Charlie O'Harris, here this morning. 436-1212, the number to call to talk with him. Thanks for being here again, Charlie. Always good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, we do have a few callers already on the line. Go ahead, caller. Let's get straight to the phones. What's your question? Go ahead, caller. What's your question for Charlie?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, ma'am.
If a person was to violate parole with just a few weeks left, would they just be arrested, or would they catch a new charge for violating parole?
Well, actually, there's a difference. Parole is what happens after you've gone to prison and you get out. Probation is what happens if you're sentenced and you don't go to prison, but if you mess up or violate it, you will go to prison. So probably what she's talking about is probation. The probation period can be like from 12 months to 36 months, even sometimes 60 months. If you're on probation for like a sentence where you get 3 years and you do all but 2 weeks of it and you violate it, it's not a new charge, but then you can be sent to prison to do the whole sentence that you had before, so you can do the whole 36 months. So I assume what you're talking about is someone's done almost all their probation. Now they've got a probation violation, and the question is whether they have to do their whole sentence, and yes, they do if the judge decides to send them to prison. Now, the judge has discretion as to what to do with the person, but the judge could send them to prison to do the whole sentence.
You know, there may be some leeway, like you said, with a judge, but really, if they say 3 years, they mean 3 years.
And 3 years to the day. I mean, you can't come in the last day and go out and get drunk, or you may end up in prison.
Okay. Thank you, Charlie. Good advice. Okay, next caller. Go ahead, caller. What's your question for Charlie this morning?
I have a buddy of mine that signed up with, it's called United Credit Counseling, and he has a bankruptcy. He's trying to get some stuff straightened out that didn't get put on the bankruptcy. And I have a bankruptcy also, and I have a lot of medical bills that didn't get put on that bankruptcy. And I was curious if it was a good idea if I try to hire them.
Well, I don't know who you're talking about hiring. I think with the bankruptcy, the best thing to do is hire an attorney. If that firm's got attorneys in it and they're advising you with attorneys on a bankruptcy, that's what you need. But you shouldn't be doing something like that yourself. You ought to have some help. There's a number of attorneys that do that, and I would give you the advice I would give you is on anything like that is to get a hold of an attorney to handle your bankruptcy and get through that, because there's a lot of things that can come up that people that aren't attorneys don't know how to handle.
I was going to say there's got to be a lot of things that you've got to get in place to make sure you do it correctly.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of forms to fill out, and there's some things that are really legal issues, but doing it right is something you want to do with a bankruptcy.
Okay, I believe we do have another caller on the line for you, Charlie, so go ahead, caller. What's your question for us this morning?
Yes, my son has a little one, and she lives in a different state than what he lives in. He lives in Kansas. He hasn't been able to have the child. She won't give him the child for visitation or anything. He is paying child support, but he's still not able to see the child. What does he need to do?
Well, he's going to have to get he needs to go to court. He should be able to see his child. Actually, the way the law works is if you pay child support, that actually has nothing to do with visitation. That's a separate issue. Those are separate. You cannot pay child support because you don't have any money and still see your child, or vice versa. But if you're a good parent and you want to see your child even though they're in another state, you need to make arrangements. The thing that's going to make a difference is where court would be. If they were married or divorced here in Wichita or Sedgwick County or Kansas, it would be controlled here. If it was in another state, he'd have to hire an attorney in another state. So he needs to get some legal advice as to where to go, but he should be able to see his child.
Okay, yeah, especially like you said, if they're a good parent.
Yes, yes, for sure. I mean, we want both parents involved in children's lives as much as we can.
Okay. Thank you, Charlie. Good to see you again. Appreciate you answering all of our questions today. And thank you, viewers, for calling in. Appreciate you talking to Charlie today. Well, a little birdie taking a wild ride, now a bird lover coming to its rescue. That story when we come back. You're watching Eyewitness News here on the KSCW.